Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
All right, guys, we are back with Destiny for another very heated Israel versus Palestine debate. We're going to be talking about the Jews, the Palestinians, the terror. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun. This is probably the longest we've ever gone since I met you without doing a stream,
Probably,
and
yeah.
a lot of shit has changed in the last 2 months, politically wise. I was gonna ask you this. I haven't really seen you in the last 2 months on like many debate channels. I saw you on that Pierce Morgan debate with Andrew, which was kind of disappointing because it was so civil. What have you been doing?
Just basically watching stuff and just chilling, big chilling. But we've been like watching a lot of news coverage and everything. All of the kind of like conservative platforms, I think, have kind of taken a break from any super confrontational arguments since they won the election. So I think they've been kind of like chilling because they don't have to do anything. And then we've just kind of been watching the collapse of the empire, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess let's jump with this. So why do you think Democrats lost the election?
Um, my personal feeling is it was a big referendum check on like inflation. I think that incumbent parties all over the world had a huge issue. I think that people saw prices going up. It's like a really easy thing to feel really bad about. And then any edge cases where Democrats could have made good headway, they fucked up on. So I think they did bad messaging around stuff like all the woke issues and dumb shit like that, basically.
Well, Kamala didn't really mention anything woke. This would be going back the way to the past. Like Kamala didn't run on anything woke. I do agree it was a referendum on the incumbent party, but Mexico, we had from the Moreno party, Sheinbaum, she won, and she's from the same party as AMLO. So there were some exceptions to that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
do you think there's anything else to contribute to besides a referendum on the incumbents?
I feel like that was a big one, yeah. Like, were there other things? I think like some of the woker issues, I think probably impacted it a bit. But I think I would say that was the big one, yeah. I don't know what else
I
I
would
mean.
say I would say there's a few other big things. You can just tell me if you agree, disagree with this. I think that a lot of public's trust was hurt with the Democrats because they pretended for so long like Joe Biden was fine, and then kind of during that display, it was just a disaster. I think that hurt people's trust in the Democrats. I think that while Biden had good policies in some ways, a lot of his policies didn't like affect you right away. It's more like, yeah, we're going to build the chips factory, but it's not something people feel. It's not something people notice, right? Versus if he did something more that you feel right away, like a stimulus check. I know he did in the beginning, but closer to the election, or something like raising the minimum wage or paid family leave, something that people can feel, that would be more tangible. Because I think the average normie has no idea what Biden did or did not do. Like I just don't think they know. Only people like us who like kind of dive into policy. We know about the CHIPS Act. We know about the IRA. We know about all that stuff. So I think that played a role. And I think probably the biggest factor out of everything I've said is going to be the fact that simply Kamala is not that charismatic. And I think policy doesn't really matter that much anymore, certainly not with swing voters. It's largely about just, who people vibe with more. It's a vibes election. And Trump got people excited to come out, and Kamala did not get people excited to come out. So the Democratic base didn't come out as was expected. And I think that's what hurt because people weren't excited about her. Like they were for Obama. Obama is just very charismatic. He's very engaging, and he got people exciting. I think Joe Biden was the exception just because it was people were looking for such a different candidate after, with the pandemic going on. Like I think that it was no matter who Democrats ran in 2020, they were going to lose. I think also Kamala did not do a good enough job differentiating between her policies and Biden. So people just saw her as like, yeah, she's just going to be basically the same old. And my feeling is that, with what the Democrats have been doing, even though it's not their fault, inflation is pretty high. And so I'm going to get more inflation if I go with her. So I don't think she did a good enough job differentiating between Biden. But really, I just think she's not charismatic or popular enough to succeed in the modern world of 2024 politics. I think that nowadays you need someone like Jon Stewart. You need someone who's entertaining, who's engaging, who's charismatic.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of those things. I don't know how much of any of those things individually brought the election to where it was, but I mean, I would say for sure that we're very much in like an influencer style political like environment now, where being able to capture people's attention and get people excited and shit post on Twitter and everything all day is probably a really important thing for a lot of voters now, for better or for worse. So
Yeah. I think also that just going back to the point, the reason that the Moreno party won in Mexico, So for anyone's not familiar, Moreno Party is like the liberal party in Mexico. So AMLO, who was the president before the current Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, he tripled the minimum wage. And that's like some shit that people can feel. Like if Biden doubled the minimum wage, like there's a good chance he could have, Kamala could have won the election because that's something people can feel. It's like, wow, like my income just doubled under this president, under this Democratic president. So I think that Tim Walz actually kind of said it best after the whole thing was over. He said like, yeah, people don't want us to tinker around the edges. People want like real, tangible change. And people vote on vibes and people vote on these things they can feel like. No one votes on like, oh, unemployment numbers are good, right? Because again, it's not something you feel. People vote based on inflation. People vote based on, you know, how, for example, whether they're living paycheck to paycheck, whether they feel like they're doing better. Very few people vote based on macro things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the messaging is obviously more important than the policy. I think Americans have shown that they want to be messaged to better than they care about anything actually getting done. So yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Wait, hang on one second. But yeah, I mean, so question: 2028, is it going to be Trump running, or who's going to be running?
I mean, like my feeling is that he's going to be too old, but I also felt that for this election. So who the knows? I think the really important thing is going to be midterms, and then we're going to see how people are actually feeling about Republicans in general. My guess is Trump has to be gone for 2028. He's just going to be so old, and you've already seen him slow down pretty significantly due to his age now. So, but I mean, yeah, who the knows? Who knows for real? But yeah, my guess is he's going to be gone. But
who do you think is the best right now? Like, who do you think is going to be a leader in the Democratic Party? Who do you think will run, and who do you think should run as for the president?
No clue, but it's gonna have to be somebody who's like exciting, like somebody that gets people hyped and can play social media well. But I think we're way too far out to see what's gonna actually happen. I think people like AOC could do it. I like AOC. I think she's done a good job at learning how to be an exciting person, but also still like be effective politically inside of her political environments and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, AOC, I guess. I think she might be too feisty for the general public. I don't know. I do like her. I'm personally fond of her. I think someone like Tim Walz would be a better choice. Or the governor of Michigan. Who's that lady? Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, I think has a lot of charisma. Even Josh Shapiro potentially, even though he's got that whole thing. JB Pritzker, Andy Bashir. Like I think those would be all solid choices.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean we're so far out from that; it's hard to say, right?
Yeah. So, okay, let's move on to this. So, if you had to rate how Trump's been doing for the last 2 months, what would you get? What kind of rating would you give him?
I mean, the worst possible rating. I think it's probably been the most unbelievable. Like when it's gotten so bad that even conservatives are just kind of like being quiet because they realize it's all insanely indefensible. I think that says something. And yeah, it's just been an unbelievable, horrendous 2 months. Jesus.
I kind of felt from the start that Trump would be a disaster, but tell me if you agree with this, but he's been much, much more of a disaster than I could have ever anticipated in such a short time period. Like I just never thought we'd be talking about Social Security, laying the groundwork for taking down Social Security. There'd be massive cuts to Medicare. I never thought that Elon Musk would be like tinkering around the Treasury. Like it's all been just a bunch of like pretty unbelievable stuff.
I mean, I think the argument is just that it's kind of what was said in the first term is that for his first term, there was more he wanted to do. He just didn't know anything about government because he just doesn't know anything about government. And this time around, he realizes that in order to get the stuff that he wants done, most of what he wants to do is illegal. So he needs like super sycophantic people to go along with it. And now he's just done a much better job at having those people around him, people who are literally like never going to say no to him and are going to go along with the most unhinged stuff possible. And that's basically what we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of like Republican politicians actually like starting to mimic his like dancing and his movements. They're all doing like gay jerk off dance where it looks like they're jerking off two guys.
Yeah, I saw it cringe shit like that.
Like they're all talking with their hands a lot more, like, but to an extent they never did before. Yeah, you see a lot of that. People like some Republican, I forget his name, voting to creating a bill that would rename an airport after Trump. Rename a bunch of things after try. Yeah, it's just the level of dick sucking on the right is insane. So what would you say to someone who's not really been following politics too closely? What do you think are the 3 worst things Trump has done since he started?
The way that I would message to somebody who hasn't been following politics closely, I would just say that like the tariffs and everything are probably going to make everything a lot more expensive. That the United States is just generally going to be seen as kind of like a bad guy now instead of a good guy in the world. And I think that if you care at all about our history and what the United States has contributed to the world, especially around things like World War II, it's kind of sad to see us just abandon that position completely. And then I would say that our, I don't know if I would fixate on Social Security or Medicare, but I don't know, probably something in the vein of that. It would depend on who I'm talking to more specifically past that point. But the really bad stuff has to do with the deportations and everything now. I have to figure out a way to message more effectively on that. But it's been some of the most, yeah, this party has had the largest disregard for law that probably in the history, definitely in the history of any American presidency ever. It's just insane.
Yeah, with the only one that comes close is Andrew Jackson, but that was like 250 years ago. But yeah, I guess I would say also that if I was communicating this, I'd say like definitely the economy, just crashing the economy in such a short time span. Stagflation is increasing. The stock market is crashing. What's it called? The stock market is crashing. You know, you have a whole bunch of new people who are unemployed. Unemployment is up because all these people got fired. Yeah, I mean, you just have, you know, inflation is worse than it's ever been. Republicans used to talk about the price of eggs leading up to election. Now they've completely stopped talking about eggs at all because the price of eggs is even worse. So yeah, just kind of destroying the economy in such a short time span, and it's only going to get worse. I agree with you about the part about turning allies into enemies. Like Canada was extremely unexpected. Like Canada's been our ally forever. Not a lot of people know this, but they went with us to Iraq. Like they've actually like followed us into every war. And even though obviously their military is nothing like super, they've contributed. It's like a fraction of a percentage of a fentanyl actually comes through the Canadian border. Like as far as allies go, and Canada is like our strongest ally, or top 10 strongest ally. So kind of really souring those relations. I mean, you have just now, like, for example, all American alcohol being banned from the state-run alcohol stores in Canada, and those are like the largest alcohol purchasers in the world. So you have just like a lot of shit like that happening
For like no reason too. Like all of this is happening for, it's not even like anything was happening where it's like, oh God, we need to crack down on Canadians. Like all of this is just like totally unprovoked.
Yeah,
Like
it's totally random. No reason for it. Doesn't benefit the American people in any way. In fact, I would argue that I watched both what Trudeau said and also that guy Pierre Bolivar, who's the opposition party. And in both of their speeches, they seem more empathetic towards the American people than what Trump did in his speech, where he was like, "Look, yeah, things are gonna get a little hard, but people understand. People are okay with it. People know things gotta get worse before they get bad." So yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense. It's so weird. I don't yeah, it's just horrible. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense if you look at it through this perspective. This is a conspiracy theory going around the left, but I don't think it's that crazy. Is that the whole idea? Is that basically his his ultra rich friends, they know what he's going to do, when he's going to do the announcement, when he's going to back off the tariffs. So they short a bunch of stock. The stock crashes. Then when he does his announcement, they go up and they sell and they make billions of dollars.
I've heard this said before, but like Trump has so many other ways of illegally making money. I mean, he's already doing it with all the crypto scam shit where he's going to be making.
He's using all of them.
Yeah, but it's so much. Like these are called, we call these I've heard people refer to these as unforced errors. Like he's doing so much stuff that's so beyond the pale. Like this guy's like 80 plus whatever years old. Like it's not like he needs extra money. Like what's he doing? Like he can't afford the PS6 or something that he absolutely has to push the entire country to the brink of extinction. Like I just think it's unhinged. Yeah.
Yeah, but people don't become rich by like not caring about money. It's
well, I mean, he became rich because he was big on The Apprentice. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, people, like people who are really rich, like they don't do it because they need to buy something, right? They do it for the chase, for the high. They like that, like just they get a high when they get more money in their bank account. That's just how they operate. So it's not necessarily that he needs something or that he can't afford. He can afford everything, obviously. So can Elon. Elon's the richest man on the planet. It's not he doesn't need to be meddling in Doge. He doesn't need any of that, right? He's just doing it because he wants more power. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of like I think a lot of these guys are ideologically driven for sure. In that like the ideology is important, maybe even more important than just the money part, or the gaining power is like the important part, and the money is just a way to do that, basically.
But the thing is, I think Elon has ideology, and I don't think Trump has any. Like or doesn't have much ideology. He changes his position on things all the time in a very short time span. Like he's before he was super anti H-1B visa, now he's pro it. Like he flip flops on a lot of issues like really fast. So I don't actually believe he has strong ideology.
I don't think he has like a coherent ideology. Like he doesn't understand what his ideology is, but I definitely think that there is a feeling that he has intuitively that like large countries should run the world. So Russia should be able to take over Ukraine if they want. China should be able to bully Hong Kong and Taiwan if they want, and then the United States should be able to bully Canada and Mexico if they want. He probably couldn't like give words to that, or explain it in any sort of coherent manner, but I think that intuitively, I think that's what he feels, and I think that's like his guiding way of seeing the world, basically.
I mean, I would say that his guiding way of seeing the world is through his personal ego. So the leader of some country, for whatever reason, offends his ego, and then now that country is the enemy. Leader of some hostile power actually validates his ego and says good things about him, which is why is Putin like never talks about Trump. Like Putin only ever says good things about Trump because he knows. Well, privately he probably talks massive shit because he knows that that's what's going to get a response. So that's kind of he looks at it very much through an ego perspective and a very quid pro quo way type. Like you do something for me, I'm going to do something for you. But you got to give me your undying loyalty, undying support. If you waver from me on just anything, then you no longer get my support. I think he looks at it very transactionally and very much through the ego. But yeah, aside from the whole let's make a bunch of rich people more money, the idea of doing tariffs against Canada just is so irrational, and there's really just no good argument for it. So that's kind of why I think that theory might. I'm not saying it is the case, but I'm saying that I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to the problem. Yeah, it's just so hard to say because if we look at the totality of actions, so many of them, like you said, he was for H-1B and then against H-1B, and he keeps going back and forth with these tariffs. It's hard to find like a consistent guiding principle just because he seems so wacky sometimes. Other than reality should be whatever I want it to be, and then that's whatever he wills it, basically. Yeah.
I think it's also like going back to what I said. It's it's about like an ego thing. Like initially, for example, there's supposed to be tariffs with Mexico, but Claudia agreed to send troops to the border or something like that, and then he's like, yes, he took it as a W. So it's more about owning, other world leaders. It's about dominance. Like he had a thing. This is a pretty well known fact back in the day of basically blackmailing his friends into letting him their wives. So that was his thing, is just humiliating his friends and their wives.
Where Trump was his friends' wives?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard of this before, but okay.
Yeah, a while ago, but yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So I think that's just who he is. It's just about dominance and establishing supremacy. But yeah, anyway, so going back to what's been happening. So we talked a little about the economy part. The immigration part is obviously very dangerous and sad, but also I think a lot of people think what was promised, what people voted for Trump for, is the idea that we're going to deport illegal citizens who commit crime.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was largely the premise of it, and maybe we're going to just deport illegal citizens in general, but no one voted on him for the idea that we're going to deport legal residents, because
I think some did, but there's probably a lot that didn't. Yeah. Or no, wait. I'm so sorry. I misheard when you were saying illegal. I thought you meant illegal versus, because some people say I only want to deport the ones that committed crimes, and they mean violent felons, and then other ones will say yeah, they're all crime committers though, so we should deport all of them. But I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, you mean the versus deporting people who just had green cards or visas. Yeah, that's such an unbelievable step further than he needs to go. I don't understand. I don't have a way to explain it either. Yeah, it's insane.
It is insane. But I think it gets a lot crazier. There's no due process for these people. They just basically some of them just get disappeared. A lot of them wind up, I don't know how it came to this, but in an El Salvadorian prison, which is known for being pretty intense, not the type of prisons we have in America for obvious reasons. That is crazy that someone who is here legally, is a green card holder, can wind up in not just deported back to their home country, but wind up in an El Salvadorian prison because they protest or because they say something that is not in line with the administration. That is just nuts.
Yeah, I agree.